Nice.
Not great, but whatever. Hey, I'm Fish Krakowski,
I'm Nathan Martin.
and we're back with Mando Chats, COVID coronavirus pandemic at home version. We're going to discuss today chapter 9 of The Mandalorian, which was called The Marshal. And I don't know, why don't you just go ahead? Yeah, go for it, Nathan. What do you think?
Oh, so when you loaded it up, it said The Marshal?
I think that's what it's called.
Oh, yeah, because on mine, it just said chapter 9. I was like, that's weird. Normally they have titles.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's called The Marshal. So
Fair enough.
good team so far.
I loved it. That was what a way to kick off season 2. I watched it this morning, and I was just like, oh, and it just kept going and going and going. And I have to say, it was all fantastic.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Timothy Oliphant. It's funny because so what? Obviously, this is going to be nothing but spoiler city. So if you haven't watched,
full spoilers.
Yeah, hold off watching this. But I mean, yeah. So basically, a Boba Fett walks into the bar, and emotionally, right away, you're like, oh man, okay, Boba Fett's dead. You know what I mean? Like, because this is one of these big moments we've been there was such a big John Favreau held off letting us know to his own detriment in a way, in terms of like products and marketing and all this stuff. But last year it was just like, yeah, we're not gonna, Baby Yoda was a complete surprise to everybody. Mm-hmm. And so this year it was like, well, what could they possibly do? And then I sort of imagined they might have like a year-long build up to Boba Fett jumping into the picture. But then right away it's his armor, and you're just like, oh, okay, because I think anybody out there is sort of, for the past like almost 40 years, said Boba Fett did not die in the Sarlacc. No. There's no way, right? Like he's too tough for that. And so to see Oliphant, to see a figure wearing that armor and it's all way more wrecked, right away you're like, okay, Boba Fett's dead, amazing, because then that sort of adds this, like, the Mandalorian is the Mandalorian. But then he takes the helmet off, and he looked different enough that I didn't immediately recognize him as Timothy Oliphant, which is great. But he's playing another sheriff, which I thought was hilarious. But he wasn't Bullock from Deadwood. I mean, he was his own. He wasn't swearing as much, and he didn't have that like kind of hissing through his teeth terror. He would yell at people when he was mad. Yeah. So I guess great kickoff to season 2. Certainly agreed.
I honestly, it almost makes me worried a little bit, because I'm like, how do you follow that up?
Yeah.
Like you threw so much at us. And I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the longest episode they've ever done.
Yeah.
It was like a short film, like 50 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. Just a little higher than that. And I mean, having said that, it's funny how much that show can pack in, because I just watched basically, 8 episodes of the show in 2 days recently, and just so much, and it sure sags in the middle. But anyway, great ending, but I mean, that first episode, you're just like, the number of things you see in that first episode in half an hour is just kind of stunning. I guess it's 40 minutes, but this one, I think, had a better, I mean, it still felt like, boom, 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 just new things are happening constantly. But the what I was really interested in a certain sense, is I knew from the trailer that they were going to go back to Tatooine, and this seems to be one of the great failings of the Star Wars empire, is that they just keep going back to the same place over and over again, or the same sort of place and everything. But I almost feel like Favreau's just like, oh yeah, I'll show you how to do it. Weren't you just excited to learn, like the name of a new, what was it? It was
Mos Pelso?
Mos Pelgo, right? So there's
Pelgo.
Yeah, so there's just another town, and that was exciting, and I mean, they just made the universe bigger. My wife was noting that, she hadn't seen Tusken Raiders in that particular context, like kind of sitting around a fire.
Yeah.
And then sort of above all, I just love how much it is a Western. Like we've kind
Yes.
of already had that, but this one just felt completely like, you know, like a late 60s Clint Eastwood movie or something like that.
100%, like right down to the like riding up on his steed. I mean, I know we got that opening shot in the first episode of The Mandalorian from the first season where, you know, the door opens and he's in there. This felt way more like if they had the swinging door thing in the front of that cantina, he would have had to have pushed it open. It came like, and right down to Oliphant's character just grabbing the drinks, sitting down, and like the shots of the hand getting next to the pistol and all that stuff. It was like, no, we are doing a Western. This is full on Western, and I am all for it.
I also love how Oliphant was just so utterly cool. He's like, we're going to do this in here in front of the child. All right. And he, you know, he's not freaking out. He's just like, okay, well, I guess I'll either die right now or not, but you know, let's just go for it. We sort of, I think we got so excited we didn't talk about, you know, the that opening scene where he goes into this kind of he lands on some unnamed planet and goes into this like, you know, wrestling match. Or well,
yeah, I got shots of that actually.
It's like an axe battle, right? Between two Gamorreans. And that whole thing, like just he's walking up and there's all those creatures with red eyes. Whoops.
Nope, still here.
Yeah. So there's all these creatures with red eyes and so beautiful. And I was just stunned by the graffiti on the wall. Like I love the graffiti. Like they have this kind of like crude drawings of stormtroopers and yeah, there you go. You got it. And there's a C-3PO there. And I just love that stuff so much. I'm just like, here's a new place. We don't have to get into what it is too much. But then he goes into this very believable kind of mob situation where like a gangster, John Leguizamo, is you know, he's like this crime boss and he's like, okay, it's crude to talk business, you know, enjoy the entertainment. Just like watching these two guys like in a boxing ring with axes. It's so ridiculous, right? Like so much of the show always reminds me of how innocent and dumb everything was in 1983 when Return of the Jedi came out. And I think this show really over and over again is just saying like, yeah, this is the next thing that happened after Return of the Jedi. Like, it's not The Force Awakens, it's this.
Mm-hmm. I really liked the backstory that Oliphant told about, which is a carrying over of the theme from the first season that Werner Herzog's character was saying is like, what do you see now that the Empire isn't here? You just see chaos. And that immediately happened. Like the Empire pulls out of Tatooine and what do they get? Well, they get a whole bunch of, what do they call them? The construction guild or something? Everyone's in a guild.
They're just some kind of, they're basically these thug miners essentially who all wear the same helmet, RoboCop helmet. That's one of the things the Mandalorian's really good at is it will have, if you're in a village, everyone wears exactly the same outfit. I remember the last time I went through Leduc, everybody was actually wearing a baseball cap and a jean jacket. So, which is PS what I wear anyway.
No, but they definitely are keeping that theme, and I'm finding that very interesting because we do know that the First Order is going to rise going into the Force Awakens and stuff like that. So keeping that undercurrent and that theme of like you wanted freedom, well, this is what freedom looks like. So kind of like this is interesting, and the way that they're tackling it is, you know, we thought we toppled this evil thing and we would all be safe and be friendly, but we're not. And even with to contrast that, what they're talking about that, and to contrast that little village with the Sand People and their distrust of each other for almost the exact same reasons. It's like, well, they came after you because you came after them and things like that. And I thought it was handled really, really well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember when I watched The Force Awakens, I was pretty mad at sort of the lack of impact the events of Return of the Jedi had in terms of, well, here's just another empire and all this, everything that Han and Leia and Luke fought for, it didn't really matter. But I mean, honestly, like and the Mandalorian in a way is kind of like easing that because it is showing us that the galaxy's sort of too big to really run. Like one thing you can say about the fascists is they kind of get stuff done. And and so we have, this world that's slowly falling apart. I was thinking the other day too, just kind of an aside, but I'm like, one of the greatest secrets in the galaxy, like we can see this in the Mandalorian. Like, what if the news got out that Luke Skywalker, like what if the news got out that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's dad? And imagine your sort of like anti-maskers, truthers, like how they would take that information. It's just like, well, it's just another empire. They're just going to be exactly the same, right? And it really, really interesting. And this show it seems to be about, like, I was a little worried at one point during this episode that there was that episode Sanctuary where all the villagers wearing green fought the ATST, right? I thought that was kind of the worst episode of last year. This one much more effectively showed you that, it doesn't have to be didactic. It doesn't have to give a after school special lesson, but the show is subtly saying, like, we are kind of better off, like, as a community, solving problems than just fighting each other. And I mean, he does sort of literally say that, but I like that idea of it, because clearly the Tusken Raiders and the Mos Pelgo villagers, like, they have beef.
Yeah.
Are there any other sort of moments that really stuck out for you? Like is there a visual?
Oh, there is definitely one moment that stuck out for me 100%, that and it was this one.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
No, and that, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it. I just want to say one sentence, which is just, I love how Favreau is bringing the prequels and the original 3 movies together seamlessly and making it matter. So I mean, to have, I think his name is Tamara Morrison.
Yep.
Is the actor, and this is the clone. This is Jango Fett. It's the actor that plays Jango Fett. It's who his clone son grows up to be. And so there's Boba Fett in the desert. After we've already, this is what I love about that so much. This is not one sentence. We've just gotten used to the fact that he's dead, and it's just like, okay, like, this is a harsh reality of this show. I was telling my wife too, like, I want them to not destroy the Krayt Dragon. I want them to try something and get whooped. Like, I think that's it's better drama, and that's sort of what ended up happening. But I mean, it was interesting because it's sort of like, okay, well, we had to get used to the fact that Favreau sort of decided that Boba Fett is dead. And it's just like, and what was great about it is, like, okay, I can accept it because it's Favreau. I'm like, that's fine. Maybe he isn't. Like, I was thinking, well, we didn't see his body. Right? But then to drop that in at the end and open your head up about that, because it's sort of like, I don't get the sense that Boba Fett is like searching out his armor. I think he's just done too. Like, so many people from the old days, they're just like, I don't want any, like Luke Skywalker, I'm done. I don't want any of this, like, So anyway, go on.
Thank you, Fish, for that one sentence. I found it very interesting too, when they were fighting the worm. It was just a side thing that Mando had said to Oliphant's character, that the Sand People told Mando that this used to be a Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
And that's where Boba Fett, we last saw him. Now, is it the actual Sarlacc pit from Return of the Jedi? Who knows?
Well, I think that hole is a different Sarlacc pit, which is kind of amazing if you think about Jabba the Hutt's little, like, cute baby Yoda Sarlacc compared to this thing, which is like a mountain scale, right? So,
well, I took it as the hole that we were seeing wasn't the Sarlacc pit. It was what the worm tunneled into to eat the Sarlacc.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe that's how Boba got out. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just
yeah. Those are all weird. The little things that we don't necessarily have to connect them, but it's like what we're both doing here is speaking to the awesomeness of this show. Yeah. Because even before I watched it, I was like so giddy. I was just like, oh my god! Like, I felt like I was in a theater waiting for the crawl to come up and everything. And then during it, I was just like hooting and whooping. My favorite image that I saw, even though there was so much cool stuff. Oh, P.S. Before I forget, did you notice that the snake, like the Krayt Dragon?
Mm-hmm.
That's like there's a skeleton of one in Star Wars.
Yes, yes, in A New Hope. Yeah.
It's just like, it's just so cool. Anyway, so smart. Anyway, but my favorite image of all, and I don't know if you screen captured it, you can always pop it on later, but it's just like when Baby Yoda is on the speeder bike and he's like a Saint Bernard out the window. He's like, he's so happy. And I'm just like, that's one of the things the show does too. Like it melts my heart. Like I feel like I should be way tougher and cooler about it, but that honestly is the takeaway second of the whole show that I love. Like Baby Yoda's having a hoot.
Yeah, and they're not surprisingly, but not used as much. Always he was like what Robert Rodriguez always refers to as the puppy in the corner. It's like this show was way more about these characters, and when you wanted to cut away to something cute, Baby Yoda's there to cut away to. He had nothing to do with this episode. It was just to have a little moment where he could be like, ooh, look at his big eyes, and just adorable.
Like, every time he does anything, you're like, okay, there's gonna be another toy, right? Like, so we have him touching the ball, so we're gonna get him in that little pot or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just love that episode to death, and it didn't even really touch on anything big at all. Like all he was trying to do is find another Mandalorian, which again, you hear there's a Mandalorian on Tatooine, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And we haven't dealt with any of the Moff Gideon stuff or anything like that. So that's all out there still, and we're gonna get that. This one obviously leaned hugely on fan service, but I'll take it. I almost there. But yeah. And I kind of just can't wait to see what happens next, man. That was a good episode. So good. Those a lot of big body count too. That's always nice.
No kidding. When that thing started spitting out the acid stuff, I was like, oh, okay, we're going there.
Yeah.
I guess everything in outer space, spits acid.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah. It's sort of, I think, and that's sort of fan service to the trolls who just wait for something to not be what they like on the internet, and then they barf all over. Anyway, you got anything else?
No.
Okay, you might as well leave on that high note. So we'll see you in a week. Great job, Jon Favreau. Great job, Filoni. Amy Sedaris, love her. Oh my God. Yeah, those characters, like all those characters, the way Oliphant was, the way Pelly is, like I'm just like, I love these people. And one last thing I will say is Boba Fett walking away, grumpy, not into it, whatever. I don't feel like he are. So that really means that the Mandalorian that we know and love is the Mandalorian. And I really like how he kind of underlines that. It was a great way to kind of deal with that big question that happens when those two meet. We don't need anything else. I kind of feel like it'll probably happen, but I'm honestly, if that's the last we ever saw of Boba Fett, that is fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to. I'd be happy either way. I'm thinking that they're definitely going to meet up eventually. Like he has his armor.
I don't know why, but I just went back to. I remember there's an old Mad magazine cover where like we and C-3PO and Darth Vader are all like dancing with hats. That's what I want to see Mando and Fett doing. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention. It's minor, but City Councilor Aaron Paquette is on Instagram. So you just look up Aaron Paquette, and he's been doing these incredible Star Wars sort of indigenous art things. So you should really check those out. This is just inspiring people to be happy in this completely terrifying time we live in. And on that, I'm going to put on my my Baby Yoda mask and
nice.
See you guys next week.
This is the way.